includes the original 1940 foreword by editor Douglas E. Lurton, which provides a greatly engaging introduction to the history behind Jefferson's effort. Jefferson's selections appear here recomposited in an immensely readable style, presented with compactness and clarity. This volume represents a distinctly accessible edition of a religious and moral classic, one that every thoughtful seeker should read. Foreword by Douglas E. Lurton. The most exquisite story ever written is simply told in about 25,000 words. These words, extracted textually from the Gospels by Thomas Jefferson, form a beautiful, moving story of the life and morals of Jesus. Within this brief and sublime story are the authentic words of Christ, which give life to the Bible. They are its essence. During his first term in the White House, the father of American democracy revealed his dream of separating the sayings, which were indisputably the words of Jesus, from what he considered to be extraneous matter in the Holy Library of 66 volumes, 1,189 chapters, 773,000 words. Jefferson first tried to induce others to do the work. In 1803, he sent to Dr. Benjamin Rush the syllabus of his comparison of the moral doctrines of Jesus with those of the other ancient philosophers. In his letter to Dr. Rush, Jefferson emphasized the confidential nature of his study with these words, "And in confiding it to you, I know it will not be exposed to the malignant perversions of those who make every word from me a text for new misrepresentations and calumnies. I am, moreover, averse to the communication of my religious tenets to the public, because it would countenance the presumption of those who have endeavored to draw them before that tribunal and to seduce public opinion to erect itself into that inquest over the rights of conscience which the laws have so justly proscribed. It behooves every man who values liberty of conscience for himself to resist invasions of it in the case of others, or their case may, by change of circumstances, become his own." Others failing to do the work, Jefferson, in evenings of escape from the affairs of the nation, prepared a preliminary extraction which it was his custom to read nightly before retiring. After removing to his plantation at Monticello, Jefferson conducted a voluminous correspondence on religious subjects with John Adams. In one of his letters to Adams in 1813, the great statesman gave this description of his work: "We must reduce our volume to the simple evangelists. Select even from them the very words only of Jesus, paring off the amphibologisms into which they have been led, by forgetting often or not understanding what had fallen from him, by giving their own misconceptions as his dicta and expressing unintelligibly for others what they had not understood themselves. There will be found remaining the most sublime and benevolent code of morals which has ever been offered to man. I have performed this operation for my own use, by cutting verse by verse out of the printed book and arranging the matter which is evidently his and which is as easily distinguished as diamonds in a dunghill. The result is an octavo of 46 pages. This octavo Jefferson later enlarged to the form presented here by Wilfred Funk Incorporated. 3 years later, 1816, Jefferson wrote from Monticello to Charles Thomson, "I, too, have made a wee little book from the same materials, which I call the Philosophy of Jesus. It is a paradigma of his doctrines, made by cutting the texts out of the book and arranging them on the pages of a blank book in a certain order of time or subject. A more beautiful or precious morsel of ethics I have never seen. It is a document in proof that I am a real Christian, that is to say, a disciple of the doctrines of Jesus. If I had time, I would add to my little book the Greek, Latin, and French texts in columns side by side." Later, Jefferson did make the time to complete his work, and the finished volume with extracts in 4 languages in parallel columns was purchased from the family and placed in the United States National Museum at Washington in 1895. Jefferson waived any intention of publishing his compilation with the words, "I not only write nothing on religion,"